we are going to be talking about HOAs and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for you to live in an HOA. The easy answer to that question is yes. It really depends on your lifestyle and what you're comfortable with. There's pros and cons either way. So let's get into the pros and cons of it, and then you can make an informed decision about whether living in an HOA is for you. Basically, what is an HOA? An HOA is a homeowners association. So you're going to want to figure out, first off, if it is a homeowners association or if it is a developer owned community, because that's a very different thing. Homeowners association just means it's an association or a group of homeowners that got together and decided the rules for their community, and they can go ahead and change those rules if the majority agrees. Everything is voted on. There's very set specific things and guidelines and rules and regulations and legalities that have to be involved. When it's a developer owned community, the homeowners don't have as much say in what goes on and what their fees actually go to and what they don't go to. So definitely check into that if you think you're moving into a homeowners association and it is not, in fact, a homeowners association. I know a number of them here in Marion County that are not HOAs. People think they are, they're not. So just a heads up on that. All right, so let's get into the pros of a homeowners association in case you are, in fact, moving into an HOA. First off, you got the maintenance. The HOAs cover like the common areas. You normally have more amenities, the lawn and signage and all of that kind of stuff gets taken care of. If there's a pool, a community pool, you'll have that ability to utilize the pool, and you won't have to worry about scooping all the leaves or dead bugs out of it, which is awesome. That's like the best part of having a pool, is not having to maintain it. So, if you have those parks and sidewalks and pools and gates and all this other stuff, all of that has to be maintained by the association. It is their problem. You just get to enjoy it, and you just have to pay a fee to help take care of your portion of that cost, which is normally, by and large, much, much lower than if you had the thing yourself. If you're taking care of a swimming pool, trust me, it is very expensive. I used to call it my own personal money pit. You just pour the chemicals or your money down into the water. So keep that in mind. Also, property values can basically be maintained or increased because you're living in an HOA, which kind of sounds a little weird because if you're in an HOA, there's going to be fees and you're like, well, obviously the home value is going to be less because you're going to have those fees. That is not necessarily the case at all because the entire community is maintained well because they're under the same rules and regulations as the other. Then you're actually going to have a much higher value normally to your home just because of those enforced rules and regulations. So that's kind of something. And again, those amenities like the community centers, the fitness facilities, parks, anything like that, you might not otherwise have access to those kind of facilities because it's, again, provided by the developer and then turned over for the homeowner association to maintain. There is also a safety aspect. There's a lot of those in the 55 plus communities that prefer to have gated communities or guarded and gated communities or some mishmash of all of that. So there is some safety elements to it. If you've got a guard that's checking every single person that comes through, or if you've got cameras up so that everyone that comes in, you've got their license plate numbers and stuff. There is an element of safety to those kind of things. So it really just depends on how you look at it. For me personally, I don't really like being in one of those type scenarios because to me it feels more like a prison. But that's me. That's not necessarily you. And I'm sure at my age, and having a husband and everything, I'm going to look at things a lot differently than maybe an elderly single woman. So it just depends on where you are in your life, maybe what background you have in your life, where you're coming from. There's a lot of different things that make you more interested in a more safe environment, such as having a guard and a gate. What about the cons? Oh, let's get into those. All right, so the cons of living in a homeowners association. Someone has to be in charge. Somebody has to be in charge. Somebody has to be treasurer. These are all things that you have to have. Somebody has to enforce the rules. A lot of the homeowners associations are so large, they have to have a CAM, which is a community association manager. It's a very, very difficult job. I actually considered it at one point, getting the licensing for that. Way back in the day, I was like, oh, this will be great. I'm going to be able to be a community association manager of some gorgeous beach condo complex or something like that. What I came to realize is that it is an incredibly difficult job, especially if you live on the property, because you are now working for your bosses, but you're also going and posting your bosses. I mean, how uncomfortable is that? They all know where you live. They pay for your lifestyle in some capacity. So it's just a very uncomfortable situation. I didn't feel comfortable with it, so I opted not to move forward with it. But so just my heart goes out to all of the CAMs out there. Anytime you want me to take you to coffee, you deserve a Starbucks on me, because that is a very, very difficult job. So nothing but respect for you in your position. But yeah, somebody does have to be in charge. There's normally a HOA president. There's oftentimes a CAM as well. There's, a treasurer. There's all sorts of people that are voted into those positions so that they can help to maintain, and somebody's got to sign the checks. And when you have that many amenities and stuff and paychecks and stuff like that for the guard at the gate and all sorts of other things, it's a job. It's definitely a job. But when you have somebody in charge, you run the risk of them going a literal bit of a power trip. And I have seen that many, many times in an HOA where the new president coming in is a little too full of himself or herself, and they feel it's their duty to go around with a clipboard and a pair of binoculars and count how many houseplants you have on your front porch. That makes it very uncomfortable for everybody. If you come over with a ruler and measure the grass in my yard, we're going to have an issue. Mind you, if you want everybody's house to be like yours, if you take pride in your yard and you don't want somebody's crabgrass or something like that messing up yours, and that's an issue for you, you might have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. In fact, you probably have your own ruler. That's not for me, but it might be for you. So it really just depends. All of this really just depends on your own personal choices and what you would like and what you don't like, and kind of decide for yourself. So you can have people that get into that position that are on a little bit of a power trip. Keep in mind, they can be voted off as well. It's not quite as easily done, but that can be done. So just keep that in mind. I have seen some funny stuff over the year. I laugh because, it wasn't my association. But I've seen some funny, interesting stuff over the years with homeowner association presidents and stuff that have come and gone. And sometimes it's just a learning curve. I do recommend that any homeowners associations out there, if you are on the board, please go and take a weekend-long CAM course, the Community Association Manager course. Please go and do that. It's only 2 days, and it will be incredibly enlightening. So please, please, please go and do that. I honestly think it should be mandatory for anybody that takes that position, honestly, because it is very, very enlightening. But they do have rules and regulations. So even if your president of your HOA is not going on some kind of power trip, they still have to enforce the rules. And you moved into that association, you had a copy of the rules and regulations, and you moved in anyway. So you have now agreed to abide by those rules and regulations. If you don't like one of the rules, or if you want to change it, then by all means go through the process and change those rules, or ask for an exemption or something like that. But by and large, you are going to be held to those rules and regulations the same as anybody else. So for anything like parking restrictions, use of the common areas, any kind of home improvements or anything like that, sometimes those have to be approved, or again, you could get a fine. You could very easily get a fine. And not a lot of people know this, but you can, in fact, get your home foreclosed on if you decide that you do not want to pay your HOA fees. Or if you've been fined repeatedly, they can foreclose on you. It's incredibly rare nowadays for that to happen, but it does happen. So keep in mind, they do have some legal rights if you are not abiding by what you said you were going to abide by when you moved in. There's definitely a cost to living in these homeowners associations. Basically, the more amenities that they offer you, the more maintenance cost there is to maintain those amenities, which means you're going to have a higher HOA. Now, if they just have maybe a clubhouse and one pool and it's not guarded, but it is gated, that's going to be probably less expensive than maybe one of the larger homeowners associations that have maybe a golf course or several golf courses and several pools and several clubhouses, and they include cable and they include, whatever. There's a lot of different things that these association fees pay for. Sometimes you'll have like a group discount because everybody's got basic cable. So you're included in that. Whether you want basic cable or not, you're going to pay for it because it's part of your HOA fees. Some of the fees are mandatory. Some of them can be, you can opt out sometimes. So just really get into the details of those fees, what they include, what they don't include, and kind of go from there. I do actually kind of like the ones that have the garbage pickup with one particular company. If they've gotten a discounted rate because it's the whole community, it's kind of nice, okay? It's kind of nice because then you don't have multiple different garbage truck companies coming in every day. Like my neighbor has a different garbage pickup company than I do. So my days are like Monday and Thursday, and theirs is Tuesday and Friday. So there's like always garbage trucks going and stuff. So, that's the kind of stuff that you can avoid. They just come in at the same time. Everybody has their garbage out on the same day. There's not garbage on one day and garbage on another day. And, there's always junk somewhere. It's really kind of nice for stuff like that. So those kind of things that, there are some bonuses for that kind of stuff. You are going to have a lack of control or limited control on decisions made by the HOA, especially if it's not agreed on with the majority. And again, with that power trip thing, you can also kind of get into a bit of a clique with some of those that are with the HOA. So there can be at times favoritism and stuff like that. I hate to say that because it's not normally the case, but I have seen it happen. So, sometimes their friends let things slide and, those that are not their friends get fined. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that make people not want an HOA. But those kind of things are pretty rare. It doesn't happen very often. But everybody has horror stories of, oh, I was in this HOA once and it was absolutely awful because, so-and-so's cousin went up there and they ended up getting voted on as board president, and they were doing all these favors for this one person, and everybody that person didn't get along with got fined, and it was just, people have these kind of things. If you do start seeing stuff like that, or if it's really bothering you, go ahead and run for the next board position. If you can't beat them, join them. Pretty much any of the homeowners can try for the board positions. I personally don't want to be on any HOA board, but it's pretty easy to get voted in. So just a heads up, if you don't like it, change it. Those rules and regulations, like I said, you can request exemptions, but some of the HOAs are pretty inflexible. For example, if you're in a 55 plus community or you want to buy into a 55 plus community, they have some wiggle room. There is a portion of their homeowners and occupants, for that matter, that don't have to be 55 plus, and they can still legally maintain their 55 plus HOA. The issue is that it's up to the homeowners association to decide if they're going to go ahead and allow you to move in anyway, even though you're not 55 plus. This comes into play more so, they use the exemption more so if maybe the owners of the home were in their 80s and then they passed away unexpectedly, and the adult children have now inherited this house, but they're not 55. So that then skews their numbers. So that's why there's a little bit of leeway. I believe it is 20% of the homeowners and occupants don't have to be over 55, but that might be wrong. So don't hold me to that. But there is a percentage that is allowable by law that will still allow them to maintain that 55 plus designation without actually having every single adult in there being over 55. Another time we've seen this happen with some HOAs and not others is when somebody is 54 and a half and they are ready to purchase a home. Some HOAs will allow them to go ahead and move in because they're going to be 55 plus in 6 months. Other HOAs are like, no, if you're not 55, you're not moving in. We're not going to even possibly lose our 55 plus designation because we are having too many people that are under the age of 55. So it's up to them. Some of them are a little flexible and some of them are straight out no. And it just depends on their situation. And again, who is on the board. So because they are the ones, the board is the one that has to approve that normally. Conflicts can arise. You think fighting with your neighbor is difficult in a regular home. If you are in an HOA, especially when it comes to those that are your neighbors and they're enforcing rules on you, it can definitely have some conflict. So, just keep that in mind. Now, when I say don't ever move into an HOA, no, I live in an HOA. Mine is all of $9 a month. It is super easy to, maintain, get along with everyone, all of that. Basically all that covers that. We don't even have a sign. We need a sign. Nobody knows where my neighborhood starts and stops. But for our neighborhood, it's basically just to make sure that all of the neighbors are not parking on their lawn or they're not, they don't have like trash sitting out or anything like that. So all of the homes look very nice and everybody maintains them because they know they can be fined if they don't. So we it works. It's a happy medium for us, So all of the houses maintain that real pretty look and all the grass. Nobody has grass up to their knees and nobody has, indoor furniture that they're counting as lawn furniture and nobody needs that. Don't be that house. Okay. Just don't be that house. But those are the kind of things that being in an HOA can help you avoid. When you go to an area that does not have an HOA, you might see some really gorgeous houses that are well maintained. And then there's one that's not. And there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about that. So there are definitely some pros to living in an HOA. And a lot of it's going to depend on who's in charge and how well they're doing as far as being in charge. So, but that's it for me. If you have questions, please let me know. Go ahead and send us an email. The email address is GER.ExpectMore@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call. It's 352-817-9160. And we will be more than happy to answer any of your questions in regards to homeowners associations or water retention areas or homes that are available or anything like that, or just where's a good place to get pizza. We're cool with that too. So if you want to get in contact with us, just go ahead and send us an email or give us a call. We should have the information in the description below as well. Thanks so much for watching and we'll see you next time.